Hi everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name's Christine. I like to read dark and disturbing things, and today I wanted to kind of highlight a book that I read in August by Ronald Kelly called Fear. So this will be my little book review of Fear. So let's check it out. I actually first became aware of this book a few months ago thanks to Brad Proctor. I think he was doing a book haul and he had gotten this book, and whatever he had said about it really got me interested in it. So I went to the author's website and picked this up, and I am so glad I did. First of all, I just want to say, if you're going to purchase this book, I highly recommend going to the author's site and getting it, because not only did he send me a signed copy, but do you see how he did this little drawing in the bottom, welcome to Fear County, and then he like put just a little personalized thing in there, which I thought was really cool. I just felt like this package was sent with love, that this author really likes what he does. So that was just the vibe that I got, and I really appreciated getting it. I also had ordered, he has several books, and then he also has like these little novellas, and the cover of this, I don't know if it's like the font, whatever, it like reminds me of Tales from the Crypt, and I just really liked it. So I haven't read this one yet. This looks like it's going to be a short little novella, and I will definitely be checking out more by Ronald Kelly. So I had this book sitting on my shelf for a few months, and then Kelly over at Slime & Slashers had this as her book month pick of them, one of her book picks for her book club for August, and I thought this is the perfect time to get to this. So yeah, I'm just really glad that I picked this up, and let me tell you what it's about. So we are following a 10-year-old boy named Jeb, who lives like on a farm with his grandma and his father. Jeb has had a pretty rough life, especially for somebody of just 10 years of age, and he's lost his mother. His father is still with him. However, he has suffered like some kind of brain injury from being in World War II. So he's not quite the same. He doesn't remember who he is or that he's even Jeb's father. He, throughout the story, is kind of more like a sibling because mentally he's around the same age as Jeb. And he lives with his grandmother, who's been taking care of things. And he lives on this farm, and considered like on the wrong side of the tracks, kind of, where he doesn't have a lot of money. So he's kind of considered maybe trashy compared to some of the other people in this county. And we spend a good probably first half of the book really getting to know where Jeb lives, getting to know more about him, his family, his situation. I never felt like it was slow, so I don't want to say it was slow burn, but it was slow enough that we really got to dive into this character development, and Jeb is just a great character. I almost forgot to mention he has a dog named Buckshot that is like his trusty hound dog that follows him wherever he goes. So he doesn't have a lot of friends. He mostly hangs out with his dog and just kind of finds things to do after he's done all of his chores, of course. He keeps himself occupied in the summertime during the day. Unfortunately, there is something going on in this town where kids just are disappearing, completely disappearing, and few people, including Jeb, feel like they have seen a creature that no one's ever seen before. They kind of describe it like having the body of a dog but the head of a snake. And they're like, maybe this creature is what's causing these children to go missing, because too many children have gone missing, and a baby has gone missing, and something is going on. We don't think this is like being done by a human. Jeb, after seeing this creature, tries to go to the police, and of course they don't believe him. So he needs to find a way to take care of this situation. Unfortunately, also, Jeb's going through a lot of things at home because now his granny is sick and possibly dying. And he is very worried about what this will mean for him and his father, who is not really, you know, an able-bodied adult. What's going to happen to them? Are they going to, is he going to end up in an orphanage? What's going to happen if his grandmother passes? And not only that, he loves his grandmother so much. Of course, he doesn't want to see her suffer or be ill. So he ends up going on this big journey to another county to try to meet up with a person he has heard maybe has some magical abilities. And he hears about this from an adult friend that he kind of makes while he's in town, this man named Roscoe, who Roscoe is just awesome. He carries his guitar with him everywhere. He's always singing the blues. He is actually a really great musician, but he is Black and not really welcome in this county or anywhere really, because we are still in a time of segregation within the story. So they become friends and decide to to go off on this journey to find this woman who might possibly be able to be the answer to all their problems. And that is the main idea of the plot. Once they set on their journey, I feel like it feels very Wizard of Oz. Like, you've got this ragtag group of people. We've got Jeb, his dog Buckshot, Roscoe, his friend, and his father. And they're just going off, following the yellow brick road, as it were, to this county that is, well, first of all, it's called Fear County, so it can't be good. But nobody goes to Fear County. It is just known as being like this evil place that is scary and just awful, and nobody wants to go there. So pretty much these characters all live in this town and never leave town, but they have a big enough reason to go. So they're off to see the wizard. I mean, they're off to find this woman who possibly might be able to help them on this journey. And once they leave, they encounter all kinds of things that are not really of this world, that kind of make their journey more difficult as they go. So I probably should have mentioned that this book has been around for some time. It actually came out in 1994, and it was kind of marketed as a coming of age horror book. And I feel like coming of age stories always tend to be listed as horror. I don't know that it's really horror. Yeah, there's maybe some scary things that happen in here, but it feels more coming of age fantasy to me in a way, because while he lives at home and while he's within his county, everything is a normal life. But once he leaves it, it does kind of cross over into like a fantasy type world to me. That's how I would take it. Very much like Wizard of Oz, where when she goes to Oz, nothing is the same as what it is back home. And again, it's just, and even though scary things happen in Wizard of Oz, like flying monkeys and evil witches, that doesn't mean it's a horror movie, right? I don't consider it horror, and I don't consider this really to be horror, even though there are some horrible situations that happen within here. But I do think horror fans would like it, but I don't want anyone who is not a horror fan to think that they would not like this book, because I think it is not a true, it's not a straight up horror. Some of the things I really loved about this book were just the creativity with some of the things that we encounter when we go to Fear County. I love the characters. Roscoe is an amazing character. He is making the best out of life with what he has and the cards that he has been dealt. He doesn't really let it get him down. He is ready to help someone who he's really, I think, wanting to help the grandmother, because he can recognize that she's a great person and he really wants to help her and do the right thing. We have Jeb, who is such a morally strong character who really just wants to help his friends in his town and make sure that nobody gets hurt, nobody else goes missing. And of course, he just has this great connection to his grandmother, who is more like a mother to him, and he really just doesn't want to see her suffer because she doesn't deserve that. I also really liked the pacing of the first half of this book, which is, and maybe it's because I do read some Stephen King, or I've read quite a bit of Stephen King, where I am in it. If I'm invested in the character, I'm willing to take this long journey to get to where we're going. I'm not in any kind of rush. So I really like the attention to detail of the town, and just getting to know Jeb and getting to know his grandmother, and really taking our time with that and having like this solid foundation before we went on a journey together. The second half of the book, which I would consider like once he goes out of town to Fear County, I felt like the pacing was a little bit off. Um, Things started happening really quickly. We started going from one situation to the next very quickly. So it was like, this is happening. Okay, that's over. Now this is happening. And it was just felt a little, I don't want to say formula, but instead of one continuous story like the beginning was, it was just like watching separate scenes happening, and you kind of knew um or felt like things were going to be okay. They were going to make it out of each situation, and then keep going along their way, because they obviously have not gotten to their goal yet, right? We haven't gotten to like the Emerald City of the story, and it just felt very, a little bit choppy in the scenes for that. I felt like they could have been extended a little bit longer, and I would have had a lot more feeling that these characters were actually in danger, and got more of that fear from it, the fear factor. But when things are happening super quickly, I just knew that they were going to be kind of wrapped up. I will say though, these particular scenes that I'm talking about are all very creative, and I didn't necessarily see them coming, the things that were happening. So it was an enjoyable ride for me. I just wanted it to be drawn out a little bit more, if that makes sense. So I ended up giving this a 4.5 star out of 5. If you've been watching some of my ratings, I very rarely give 5-star ratings out, because I feel like a 5-star book is absolute perfection. And I will say that this was close to it. If we could have, I'm just kind of nitpicking a few things that kind of brought it down that 1/2 star for me. So one was the pacing, and the other one was, there is a character that has, how do I say this without being spoily? There is a character towards the end that something happens to, that I felt like was a little bit rushed. And I felt like because this character was quite important to the story, that more attention should have been paid to that particular situation. It felt like everything happened way too quickly, and that there wasn't like a proper, I felt like there just wasn't a proper conclusion to that whole scenario for me. Like, I don't know how to talk about it without being too spoilery, but there is a scene that happens that I feel like should have been explored a bit further, especially considering the heavy topic matter that was being talked about and the importance of this character. I just wanted more. I felt like it was a little bit glossed over, and maybe that's not the right term, but it just needed more attention. We needed to go a little bit further with that for me to have complete closure on that entire scene. But overall, I really, really had a good time with this story. And it's not short. So when I'm saying I wanted more, I mean, this thing is just under 500 pages, but I felt like we could have had at least another 100 pages, and I would have been completely invested and wouldn't have felt like some things weren't rushed. But again, I'm being nitpicky because I did really enjoy this book. This was my favorite read of August in 2023. And yeah, I highly recommend it. This was my first time reading Ronald Kelly, so I really wanted to ask you guys, if you've read anything else by him, what would you recommend? Because I am interested in picking up some more. Other than, like I said, I had this, but this is just a novella because this is under 100 pages. So I know he wrote a lot of short stories. I was kind of reading about his background, and he was basically writing as a hobby because he really enjoyed doing it, and started taking it a little bit more seriously and had some stories published. And then I guess there was, like, you know, the big horror boom with Zebra around this time period. And once that kind of dried up, he went back to just doing what he was doing in life before he was a writer. And as time went on, more people started asking, like, hey, what's going on with Ronald Kelly? Does he not write anymore? And he started writing a little bit more. I actually saw on Goodreads that someone asked him a question about there being a sequel to this, and he said that he was going to be writing it. Not sure if there's a date on that, but I would love to read a sequel to this, absolutely. But if you have read any other novels by him that you would recommend, please let me know because I really want to read more of his work. I'm sure I'm forgetting to mention something, but that is my wrap up of Fear. Again, if you like a good coming of age story or just a fun adventure story from the perspective of a 10-year-old boy who is way more mature for his age, I really recommend this one. Give it a shot. That's Fear by Ronald Kelly. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you've read this book, please let me know what you thought down below. If you made it this far in the video, leave me a dog emoji down below as a little shout out to Buckshot in this book. I love a story that has a dog as a pretty solid character within a book. So yeah, if you liked this also, you would probably like Stephen King's fairy tale because there were a lot of similarities there as well. Even though obviously this came out first, I did see quite a few similarities between these two stories. So thank you so much for watching and stay spooky.